Pacifica, this is Democracy Now! We're on the road in London.
They are. These are the people that the state of Israel fears. These people right here. These people who have come from all over the United States to challenge a horrible blockade for the people of Palestine. These are the people that are carrying a very dangerous cargo of words, of letters.
The Freedom Flotilla to Gaza remains in limbo as 400 international activists wait to set sail aboard 10 ships. Several are leaving from Greece. Greek authorities have not allowed them to leave, and the Israeli government's vowed to intercept them should they set sail. We go to Athens, where Democracy Now!'s Aaron Mate was there for the public unveiling of the flotilla's U.S. ship, the Audacity of Hope. And we'll get reaction from the Israeli Consul General in New York. Then strike day in the UK. 750,000 British public sector workers staged a 24-hour strike in a standoff with the government's plans to reform public sector pensions.
Very, very angry. You know, I think a lot of people don't realise this. We understand now that this is going to affect us for the rest of our lives.
We're broadcasting from Britain. We'll speak with Paul Mason of BBC Newsnight. He's just returned from Greece. And with David Graeber, author of Debt, the First 5,000 Years. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're broadcasting from Britain. Attorney General Eric Holder has announced the Justice Department will launch full criminal investigations into the deaths of 2 prisoners killed in CIA custody, including one who died at the Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq. But Holder said no criminal probes will occur in 99 other cases of alleged torture, abuse, and murder reviewed by federal prosecutors. The criminal probes were announced on Leon Panetta's last full day as CIA director. Panetta will be sworn in as Defense Secretary today. The Senate Thursday confirmed General David Petraeus to become the new CIA director. Here in Britain, over 750,000 workers refused to work Thursday in the largest public sector strike in the country in a generation. 6,000 schools were forced to close, 5,000 partially closed. The workers were protesting against sweeping changes to state-sponsored pension plans. Alex Capon was among the British teachers on strike.
We don't strike lightly. We obviously went into teaching because we care about the kids and we care about their education. So it's not something we just do just for the hell of it. It's something that's deeply important to us.
We'll be joined by 2 guests here in London for more on the strike after headlines. The Guardian newspaper has revealed British government officials approached nuclear companies to draw up a coordinated public relations strategy to play down the Fukushima nuclear accident. In email sent just 2 days after the earthquake and tsunami in Japan, British officials wrote they wanted to ensure the accident did not derail their plans for a new generation of nuclear stations in Britain. One official wrote, quote, "We need to quash any stories trying to compare this to Chernobyl." In other nuclear news, the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission has granted 20-year license renewals for 2 nuclear power plants in southern New Jersey, the Salem 1 and 2 plants. The New Jersey Sierra Club criticized the NRC for failing to address sizable tritium leaks last year at the plants that the group says are causing major groundwater contamination. The state of New York is reportedly preparing to lift a moratorium on the controversial natural gas extraction technique known as hydraulic fracturing, or fracking. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation is expected to issue a report today recommending fracking be allowed on privately held land in much of the state. The report recommends only banning drilling within primary aquifers and 500 feet of their boundaries and on state-owned lands such as parks, forest areas, and wildlife management areas. Numerous reports are emerging that the sexual assault case against former IMF chief Dominique StraussKahn is on the verge of collapse. StraussKahn was arrested last month for sexually assaulting a hotel maid in New York. Unnamed law enforcement officials told the New York Times that forensic tests found unambiguous evidence of a sexual encounter between StraussKahn and the woman. But prosecutors reportedly have major doubts about the credibility of the woman, a 32-year-old immigrant from the African nation of Guinea. A judge will consider today easing the bail conditions imposed on StraussKahn. The Reuters news agency is reporting the United States is rejecting demands from Pakistani officials that U.S. personnel abandon a military base used by the CIA to stage drone strikes inside Pakistan. An unnamed official told Reuters that U.S. personnel have not vacated the remote base and there's no plan for them to do so. Some 200,000 protesters took to the streets of Santiago, Chile Thursday, calling for more government support for the education system. Organizers described the protest as one of Chile's largest since the fall of the dictatorship in 1990. Police responded by firing tear gas and water cannons. 13 protesters were arrested. Giorgio Jackson is the Student Federation president at Catholic University of Chile.
The truth is that the spread of people is huge, but we all have the same idea, that the education system is in crisis, and one of the reasons why is inequality. Chile is one of the most unequal countries in the world, and today we need to find a solution to that root problem. Obviously, education is the key that can achieve that change.
Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez has revealed he had a cancerous tumor but had undergone a successful operation in Cuba to extract the cancerous cells and was on the road to full recovery. Chavez made the disclosure in his first televised speech to the nation since he had surgery on June 10th in Havana that triggered widespread speculation about his health. A new study by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has blamed UN peacekeepers from Nepal for bringing the strain of cholera to Haiti, responsible for an epidemic that's killed 5,500 people. The study's the first to establish a direct link between the arrival of the Nepalese UN battalion and the cholera epidemic. Between 50 and 100 prisoners at the Pelican Bay State Prison in California have announced plans to begin a hunger strike today to protest what they say are cruel and unusual prison conditions. Located in Crescent City, Pelican Bay was California's first supermax prison. Isaac Ontiveros of the anti-prison group Critical Resistance outlined the prisoners' demands.
Abuse, abolish the debriefing policy and modify active-inactive gang status criteria, comply with the Commission on Safety and Abuse in America's Prisons 2006 recommendations regarding an end to long-term solitary confinement, provide adequate and nutritious food, and expand and provide constructive programming and privileges for indefinite SHU status inmates.
In other prison news, a U.S. government panel voted Thursday to reduce the sentences of up to 12,000 prisoners serving time for crack cocaine. The U.S. Sentencing Commission unanimously backed retroactively applying a new law easing penalties for possession of the drug. Judges in Colorado and Minnesota have issued rulings that could open the door for states and cities to roll back pensions to retired public workers. The judges rejected lawsuits from retired public employees who claimed they had a right to specific cost of living adjustments. The government of Minnesota shut down at midnight after lawmakers failed to agree on how to close a $5 billion deficit. The shutdown means thousands of layoffs, a standstill for road projects, and closed state parks just ahead of the 4th of July weekend. And in media news, Glenn Beck is off the air. Beck hosted his final TV show on Fox News Thursday. He now plans to launch his own internet broadcast. Beck was the target of a widespread advertising boycott organized by Color of Change and Media Matters. The boycott began after Beck made this comment about President Obama in 2009.
This president, I think, has exposed himself as a guy over and over and over again who has a deep-seated hatred for white people or the white culture. I don't know what it is, but you can't sit in a pew with Jeremiah Wright for 20 years and not hear some of that stuff and not have it wash over.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman, broadcasting in London.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez here in New York. Amy, a momentous day in the United Kingdom yesterday. Could you talk about it?
Oh, yes. Well, we're going to talk extensively about this on the broadcast with two guests, one who covers what's happening here extensively, but just also returned from Greece. That's Paul Mason of Newsnight. And we'll also be joined by David Graeber, who was in the streets all day here yesterday, the author of Debt, the First 5,000 Years. 750,000 people protesting in the streets here of Britain. We're also here because tomorrow we're going to be hosting an event, moderating a discussion between Julian Assange, the editor-in-chief of WikiLeaks, as well as Slavoj Žižek, who is the Slovenian philosopher. Living in the End Times is his latest book, and it is going to be a fascinating discussion. People are gearing up here, 2,000 people expected at the Troxy in Britain. And for our viewers and listeners all over the world, it's Saturday, July 2nd, and we're going to be live streaming this at democracynow.org at, well, it's 11 Eastern Standard Time in the morning on Saturday. That's 4 o'clock here in Britain in the afternoon. But I hope people do tune in. And also in advance of this discussion, if you want to send in questions, you can send them to stories@democracynow.org, or you can send them to our Facebook page, of course, at facebook.com/democracynow, or through Twitter. Encourage you to participate in this global conversation about this new information age. So that's all coming up tomorrow at democracynow.org. Yesterday, the big protests we'll speak about in a few minutes. But right now, Juan, we're going to Greece.
Yes, to our